So when it comes to that trust conversation, oh, by the way, welcome back. Uh, we have this case study in the book, right? Basically, this nanny is hired on, right? That this couple had been looking for the right nanny. And then they talked to some friends and they said, sometimes nannies do bad things. It made them all worried. And so they got this idea that maybe they should videotape her in the performance of her duties without telling her. And so the question is this wrong for Jim and Peggy to do that? The full record of the conversations are in the book. Well, in the end, as we look at these different ethical principles that we've been studying, the harms of having all parents in the rule utilitarian, the harms of having all parents monitor their nannies or children providers or child care providers, it appears to be greater than the benefits overall. So it would be, we would conclude that the action is wrong. Social contract theory, of course, emphasizes the adoption of rules that rational people would agree to accept because they are to everyone's mutual benefit, as long as everyone else follows those rules as well. And so that definition should sound familiar by now. Well, is it reasonable for her to expect privacy, the nanny, when taking care of the baby inside the Sullivan's home? And so the Sullivan's decision to secretly monitor the nanny is wrong because it violates her privacy, right, would be, I think, the conclusion. Now, Kant, what would Kant say? So using the first formulation of Kantianism called the categorical imperative, right? What we do there is we universalize it. And so that's one approach. Then using the second formulation of the categorical imperative, we note that the observation is the means to their desired end. The desired end is having their baby well cared for. And so the Sullivans really treated the nanny as a means to the end. Hence, a Kantian evaluation would deem it's wrong. And then there's virtue ethics evaluation, right? So the action here is the action of character. Character comes up in virtue ethics, right? The character of good parents to put their children's needs before their own. We would all affirm that, right? That's what good parents do. And so according to virtue theory, parents should be able be particular towards their children. Again, we all tend to affirm that. However, we would also expect that, I think, according to virtue ethics, if you did videotape her without her knowledge, that once the Solomons were reassured, they would trust the nanny and discontinue the monitoring. So that's a kind of a virtue ethics approach to this, right? The next topic we talk about is information disclosures, right? So we move from information privacy now to information disclosures. Our lives leave behind an electronic trail. There's no doubt about that. I think we all would agree. So a public record contains information about an incident or an action reported to a government agency for the purpose of informing the public. That would be an important key point of a public record. My house is a public record, right? People can look up how much I've paid, how much in taxes I've paid, and if I've paid them on time, right? Making government records public is a way to hold government agencies accountable. Like before a school hires a teacher, it can do a criminal background check on the teacher. If you're moving to a new city, there should be public records so you can check out the crime rate to determine the best place for you to live based on your affordability. It's easier than ever to learn a lot about someone's wealth, in fact, right, by public records. Now, private organizations also maintain extensive records of activities, not just the government and not just for the public good or to hold government accountable. These private organizations, which is really kind of the rub we're getting into, have extensive records of our activities. Databases store information about our purchases we make with our credit cards, what groceries we buy, our cell phones we buy, the use of those cell phones. Amazon is famous for using information about a book purchase, for example, to build the profile of me, the customer. And so I tend to voluntarily disclose information or allow Amazon to collect it because I want recommendations. I want them to make my life easier. I don't have time to go out and learn every new thing out there. So I frankly, for the most part, enjoy the recommendations. I've got to give them some information to do that. This is a personal choice. What about data gathering and privacy implications? There are many of these topics we're going to go through in the following couple of parts to this lecture. So product registration forms and contest entries, these are great ways to collect data, right? Because we're giving them the information they need. If I had returned, so there was a story in the book about Procter and Gamble, and the guy was going to return a questionnaire to them. Procter and Gamble would have been free at that point to use that information in any way it wished. It basically owned it, right? You remember the topic we talked about earlier called the zone of inaccessibility. You know, if we want to control or limit what others know about us and maximize our privacy. So using this definition, we can say that our personal information is private to the extent that we can control who has access to it. On most websites, if you accept that you allow cookies, you are giving up your control to which allows the collection of information, right? But again, that information in a cookie, we know from other IT courses, is useful as long as it remains secure. Normally, a cookie remains in a text file on your computer. And when you start a session with another website from your computer, that website reaches into your cookies, finds it to pull up that information, save you some steps, right? So we have, it's about having control over who takes our picture or who doesn't, who collects our data or who doesn't. What if they're taking our picture in our home or at a football game? Does that change the perspective? I think it does. These are concepts for you to consider in the discussion board and other things in the following weeks. So our expectations about privacy really does depend on the situation. Now, I wanted to give you an example. Here was a website I was on not too long ago. It was CIO.com, and this is their privacy policy. This is just snippets from it. And you can see that they're giving a full explanation, and on the right, a whole bunch of other questions. You know, the use of this website, right? We're going to authorize them. What information do they collect? How do they use it, etc.? That's becoming more common based on a change in viewpoint on data privacy based on European Union's GDPR law and the California's CCPA, California Consumer Privacy Act, both of which we've talked about previously and we'll talk about again going forward. So going down some of those topics, what about Facebook tags? Well, a tag is a label that identifies a person in a photo, right? And any of your friends on Facebook can tag you in photos. That started in December 2010-ish. So when a Facebook user adds a photo, the Facebook uses this facial recognition software that it has, kind of a biometrics approach, to suggest the name of the friend appearing in the photo. It's that good. Now, you can tag people or pages in photos you share on Facebook today. And you can also tag photos others have shared if their privacy settings will allow it, right? This is how Facebook kind of worked through the initial issues it had. So your friend may have disabled tagging or set it up so their approval is needed for the tag to show. Also, you can override your friend's post settings in this regard, and you can view settings options such as tagging. Now, my point to all that is that the current standard for tagging in Facebook wasn't the original, and that developed based on an application of consumer complaint, ethics, and the law. What about 911 services, right? If we're in an emergency, we all love 911. It's great, right? All cell phone providers in the U.S. are required by law, the public good, to track the locations of active cell phone users to within 100 meters, right? There is a potential loss of privacy. So what happens if that information is sold or shared? In reference to dialing 911, there are privacy implications of enhanced 911 location data. So the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, it would say that any 911 location may not be used for non-911 purposes. That's because the customer location data is officially considered a form of protected data known as CP&I. So what is CP&I? I go over it because this is a term that is common in IT, especially in telecom industry, if you're doing any of that work. So CP&I, Customer Proprietary Network Information, that's the data collected by telecom communications companies, right? It's about the customer's phone calls, includes the time, the date, how long the call was, the destination number you were trying to reach, right? The type of network a consumer subscribes to, and any other information as you might see it on your phone bill. That would be CP&I type data. Okay. What about rewards and loyalty programs? I love a reward program. I love to see on my apps my little ding ding continue to increase. So rewards and loyalty programs for shoppers started a long time ago, back in the 50s, with S&H green stamps is the earliest reference, but they might have been even earlier. So it's fun to be a card-carrying member of stores and clubs to save money. I have Sam's Club card, Costco card. I'm a member of a winery club called Cooper's Hawk here in St. Louis. I love it, right? And Cooper's Hawk is a chain, so I mention it. Maybe some of you are part of it too. I love it. Saves me money. I get discounts, and so I'm responding. I'm willing to give up some of my privacy to gain some of their benefits, right? Some people try and respond to it by giving phony personal information. Others will exchange their cards with other people. So if I give my loyalty card to somebody else, it's not really my habit, right? So there, loyalty cards and CCPA, the California Consumer Privacy Act, have come under scrutiny. I'm going to pick that up in part 3 of this week's conversation. Thanks.